right, good evening, everyone. This is our virtual Chalk Talk series for Hang Tough. This is our second guest in 2024. Our last guest was Sierra Romero, and we've been very fortunate to have, a lot of good guests over the last few months, both collegiate players and professional softball players. Coming up in March, we have Jackie Joseph, the former coach at Michigan State, and Shanika Randall. She also played in college, but she's coaching high school now. And it's just a good, get some good feedback from people who have played at different levels and get their input on, what they see based on their journey and so on. Tonight we have, again, Alyssa Denham, and she's got, an outstanding background. And I'm, really excited to have you again this year. And you've had a lot of things and activities going on in your life, playing in Japan, and love to hear about it and so on. Quick introduction. Alyssa played for the Raging Cajuns her freshman year in college and was named conference player, was it conference rookie or conference freshman of the year?
Mhm.
Yeah, that was conference freshman. And then she went on to transfer to go to Arizona State and play for Mike Condreas at Arizona, University of Arizona, and play for Mike Condreas. And yeah, he shoot me for that. um, and through her career, what is it? You had a 1.92 ERA and 52 wins and like 13 losses. Can you kind of talk about your accolades there?
Yeah, so I think it was 52 and 18, I want to say. But I mean, I played my sophomore year through my senior year, and then I was a COVID senior. So our season got canceled. I went back for my fifth year. And I think that my biggest accomplishment was just going to the World Series two times with my team after Arizona had not been to the World Series in 10 years. So that's probably my biggest accomplishment at Arizona. But I threw a few no hitters in there somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
I not really a strikeout pitcher, but I think I had close to probably 400 strikeouts, so not terrible. I take pride in throwing a lot of ground balls and soft outs. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not very good at talking about my own stats.
No, no problem. Yeah, I think you had what, three no hitters.
I
Yeah,
did.
and that's what, you tied a record with another player that had thrown no hitters in the past, and that's pretty awesome. Um, and then from there, you went on to play for Team USA, and you were able to get a gold medal in the Pan American game, and then go on to did you go on to Athletes Unlimited first, and then you went to Japan to play for professionally, correct?
Yes. So I've played 3 years in Athletes Unlimited. This is actually going to be my fourth year this summer. So I got 15th my first year. I got second my second year. And then that's when I got the phone call of being invited to USA. So I got to go to Guatemala with USA. We got a gold medal, which was amazing. And that's also at the same time as that I got invited to go play out in Japan. So really placing second opened up a ton of doors that second year of pro ball. And then I got second again last summer. So hopefully this summer's first.
Yep. Yeah, that's awesome. You were a medalist 2 years in a row. So,
Yes,
so how
sir.
does the point system work in Athletes Unlimited?
Okay, so the best way to describe it is that it's like a fantasy league, but real life. And so there's 60 players, the best 60 players in the world or in the country. And it's all based off of a point system. So as a hitter, you hit a single, you get 10 points, then a double's 20. And so you can get points in so many different ways. And so as you are playing the games on the scoreboard, the leaderboard is constantly changing. And so you can kind of see like, oh, now they switch spots or wherever you're at. And so at the end of the weekend, the final four people are the captains. And being a captain is a big deal. I mean, there's really no coaches in Athletes Unlimited. It's all facilitators, but the captain is the coach. So as a captain, we get to write like practice plans. You get to draft your team. You get to write the lineups. You make subs. You do literally everything that a coach would do or a manager would do, on top of also playing. So it's a lot of responsibility, but it's super fun to like try to manage the game like strategically and also be present like while I'm pitching or in an at bat for a hitter.
Yeah, I had no idea that there was so much involved with the captain. So the practice
Mhm.
plans and the whole 9 yards. So that's pretty cool. So yeah, we'll get started here, and we're going to start off by talking about your, how you started playing softball, your humble beginnings, and who made the biggest impact on you and inspired you to play softball.
So I started playing softball when I was like 8 or 9 years old. I actually have three older sisters that played softball, all at McNeese State University in Louisiana. So I was the baby and I got to kind of follow in their footsteps. And I would have to say that they played the biggest impact on like my softball career, especially growing up. Just having people like in the game that knew what to do, and two of them were pitchers, and so like what better way to have my sisters as my pitching coach. And it wasn't all sunshine and rainbows, it was pretty tough sometimes, but I mean also my mom and dad, they really played a big impact because having four girls all playing sports, can be really difficult of just like making ends meet with everything. And like we basically have a field in our backyard. We have like an entire backstop. And as I started getting older, like my dad, he couldn't catch me. Still to this day, he'll like go behind the fence and like give me a target so that I can throw into the fence. And so I would just have to say that my family's been the biggest impact, because going to the World Series and like looking up in the stands and seeing my sisters there, and like they didn't get to go to the World Series. And so it was super special to share that moment, like as a family all together. And it's also hard, I have several coaches, I get phone calls and text messages after every game, but
Mhm.
it's so much fun getting immediate feedback.
Very cool. Yeah, that's pretty pretty special. What is it? Your sisters are Jessica. Is it Stephanie,
Stephanie
Tiffany?
and Mhm.
And all of you guys playing college ball. That's pretty awesome.
It's pretty amazing.
Yeah. Did you play any other sports when you were in high school coming up?
I did. I played volleyball, basketball, and softball in high school. I lettered in basketball and softball. I did not letter in volleyball. I loved basketball. I think it was because it was like the fun sport, where softball was super intense and had to practice all the time. Basketball, I would just show up and have fun. And so yeah, it was super cool being a multi-sport athlete, of just like keeping those athletic abilities. And now that I don't play the sports anymore, and like I can kind of tell like my feet don't move as fast and I'm not as fast like side to side. And so any chance I get to like hop in and play volleyball or basketball, I still do, just because I think it's so important as an athlete to stay so versatile.
Yeah, that's awesome. We definitely promote that with our girls, and we're one of those clubs that we want to see them participate in as many things as they can do. We're not one of those clubs that pushes them to just pick one sport. So,
Yeah, I feel
but
like every sport kind of uses different muscles and different parts of your body. And so when you're just well-rounded and can use all different muscles, it just makes you such a better athlete.
yeah. And every college coach that I've talked to just talks about, I want an athletic player, somebody that's athletic. And Northwestern, gave us an example that they had somebody walk on. They tried out, and she said, I put her on the team because she had whatever it was, a 40-inch vertical leap. She says, if she can jump like that, I can convert her to an outfielder. She's athletic and she moved right. And so, yeah, there's a lot to say about that. Um,
Absolutely.
High school experience. So I think it's great. We have a lot of young kids on, usually on Wednesdays, 10U and 12U. And one of the things that I really liked about your story is that it relates to a lot of kids, going through middle school. Maybe you weren't the most popular kid, or maybe you weren't the most athletic kid at one time, or you have an issue with your coach, and you came out of your shell and you really, shine bright. And I think that that's a really neat, story for the kids that are saying, I'm struggling with this right now. I don't know if I really want to continue, but I love the sport. You persevered. And I think, a lot of that is probably because of your family, supporting you and your sisters and so on. Can you talk a little bit about your high school experience with your team?
Yes. In high school, people always say that I'm lying, but I'm serious. I was not the most popular. I actually got bullied a lot through my high school, just because I look different. I'm 6'1". I was super skinny and like I couldn't figure out my body really, and so it took a little bit to grow into that, but like the whole bullying experience made things like pretty difficult, when you don't really want to go to school because it's like, oh my gosh, like I have to see this person, and like, the old like lunch money story and like joke, like it actually happened to me like for like 4 months until my mom figured out. And so it's pretty crazy that kids are mean, and so being like a parent and like supporting your kid and surrounding them with like positive like affirmations through the younger years is so important. And so like in high school, I was trying to figure out like who I wanted to be. Did I want to be like the cool kid that like fell into all the trends and maybe not into the good actions, and like I could get in trouble and stuff? Or did I want to be the one that was different and like chase softball and not really care about if I had a date to homecoming or prom or whatever? And so I ended up, my mom, like, she really encouraged me to take the route of, pursuing softball. And I can go with my friends to homecoming and stuff. I didn't need a date. And that, like, our faith really took into that aspect of just instilling confidence in me, even when other people, they wanted to take it away. And so I just kind of figured out really young that, like, when you're special, people always are wanting to like, kind of pull that away from you because of like jealousy or envy, or just, kids just find something to always like kind of pick at. And like I was always that person. And so I really relied on softball. Like I struggled with my coach a little bit because I was so competitive that I didn't know how to like be a good teammate while competing. And so like I would be the one that get frustrated at my teammates because, like we weren't working hard or we weren't trying our hardest. And so eventually like I had to step back and worry about myself and just set the standard and hope that people kind of met that standard. And once I kind of did that, I had like such a peace of mind. Like I didn't really worry about what anybody else was saying, because my mom always told me is that like one day they're always going to come back and they're always going to want to be your friend. And it's just crazy. It's like a full circle moment of like, I see people that bullied me in high school and I see them out around town and like, oh my God. And I'm like, you
Yeah.
bullied me and you're rude,
Yep. You
Um,
remember for sure.
yeah, because and it's the same as like, I mean, my high school coach told me that I would never make it to the highest stage. And years later, we make it to the World Series, and she texted me and wanted tickets, and I'm like, whoa, like
Yeah.
you told me I wouldn't be here. And so like as a coach, I've kind of gotten into coaching, and so I've just kind of realized and taken that as like, you never tell a kid that they can't do anything, because they're going to do everything they can to do that. And they're going to always remember that one person that said they couldn't, because that's me. I always remember. And like, that's what motivates me to like work really hard on perfecting my craft and everything I do. And so everybody has something a little bit different. And so I always stick up for the kids that are a little bit different, and that like might look a little different or act a little different, because I laugh now because I'm a pitcher and like all pitchers are kind of weird. But like that's what makes me good, is that like I'm weird and I'm kind of quirky and like I'm really nice. And so it's just like nowadays, like I can accept that. But in high school, it wasn't that easy.
No, no, that's perfect. That fits in with so many girls and players that we have, and conversations. I've been coaching 18U for a few years now, and I get involved with the 23U team. And I was with this group all the way from 12U on up, and it's really cool to see, how they keep getting better. And then when they go off to college, yeah, everybody forgets, what happened in high school and they want to be your friend because now, hey, this person's out there doing something. But a lot of people like Sierra Romero and yourself, she talked about too. I just stayed focused on softball in high school and I stayed out of trouble and I knew what I wanted to do and perfected her craft just like you. So I think that's a great story. How was your, let's say when you were playing, say junior ball or prior to high school ball, what positions did you play when you were like, say, 10, 12, 14?
Everywhere.
Mhm.
If somebody, like if coach was like, who could play shortstop? I'm like, me. I've never played there, but I can field the ground ball and I can throw it. Like that was always me. I always wanted a new challenge. So I played outfield, I played first, short, third. I don't think I ever caught. Um, but yeah, then growing up, I kind of got more into the outfield, first base, and then no more outfield after I dove for a ball and my college coach was there watching. I got in trouble. But yeah, so I think like playing as many positions as you can when you're younger, it teaches you the game. You have to learn different perspectives from every single position, and you have to know where you're going to be and where you're supposed to be when the ball is hit. And so then it just gives you a better understanding when you go to that position because you can help make sure everybody's in line. And so I think that that's like really an advantage to as I'm coaching. I'm a pitching coach, but I can see when people are out of line, when a lot of people wouldn't necessarily pick up on that if they're only a pitcher. But I think that given that, like I played so many positions, it's really helped me understand the game and be able to be a better coach too.
I tell all of our girls at all ages to watch softball if you're not playing softball and watch what everybody does that doesn't have the ball, on the field. Everybody is moving to a position to do something. And there's so much that you can learn from just watching the game. Um, and I like playing all the different positions and that you were the first one to raise your hand because when you go to college, there's no telling if there's going to be a spot open for you. And maybe it's, we need a pinch runner today, or maybe I need somebody to play in the outfield. And you got to be able to say, hey, I'll go wherever I can help, coach. That's what they want to hear and to be prepared.
Yes.
How was your high school team? Was it a good team? Was it stacked with players or yeah?
Yes. So my high school team was very, very, very high level. I went to Pearland High School, which is a 6A here in Texas, and that is the biggest division that you could be in high school. We had, so just my senior class, we had 14 seniors, and all 14 went and played college ball at any level. So we had like Division I commits sitting on the bench. And so it was pretty wild. We ended up getting second place in state my senior year, which was really cool. But I thought it was like the end of the world after getting second place. And now it's just like such a small little piece of like this huge journey that's kind of built along the way. And so being able to play with so many high level competitors was a good thing and a bad thing because we all have very strong personalities as a competitor. And so it took a little bit for us to be able to figure out how to put those personalities together. It's kind of like a puzzle, and everybody has to have their piece. And like what we struggled with was I was trying to put her piece in the puzzle, but like she didn't want to be in the puzzle. And so I think that that's what took a little bit, and maybe why we got second instead of first is because we struggled meshing as a team and like all getting on the same page and on the same goal. And so now like I try to get everybody. We always used to use the saying in college of like rowing the boat in the same direction, because if one person is off, you're going to sit there and do circles and your boat's not going to go straight. And so making sure that everybody is rowing their boat in the same direction so that you can meet the same common goal. So that's one of my like favorite sayings of just like, even at AU when I'm a captain, I'm like, hey, we got to be rowing the boat the same direction. I
Mm.
feel like there's a couple people off, like let's get on sync type thing.
Yep. No, that's great. How about your travel ball experience? Is travel ball in Texas pretty high level as well?
Yes, travel ball in Texas is crazy, crazy, crazy. But it's amazing. And especially I'm from Houston area. So I mean, there's a million of travel ball teams. And so what I really liked about my team was I played on the Aces Express with David McCorkle. And still to this day, I think he's one of the best coaches that I've ever had. I think the biggest thing in travel ball is having the ability to like meet so many different personalities in a very limited amount of time because you practice like once or twice a week and then you play on the weekends and you got to win, you know, rather than high school ball, you get those kids every day. And so I think that's the biggest thing that Coach McCorkle did is that he kind of embraced all of our different personalities and we would like talk about how we're different and how you approach different people so that we were able to win together and figure each other out. And so he always preached about like learning each other like off the field, like take the time to invest in your friend and then your teammate instead of just like expecting them to show up on the field when you need them. And so that was really a big life lesson that I learned because I always, you know, like I kind of got bullied. And so I was just worried about me. And so then having that perspective really opened my eyes of being like, okay, like if I can connect with her, she's going to play a lot harder behind me when I'm pitching. And like, I know that she has my back and I have hers rather than just a bunch of people getting on the field trying to play together. And so it was a great experience and a really nice counter to my high school team that was kind of like we were button heads. That was like a free space and it was just such a breath of fresh air.
So I think it was more fun playing travel ball with that kind of
A
atmosphere.
lot more fun, yes. I still am very close with Coach McCorkle. He does the Bombers, and so that's how and why I help with them, and just because he made such a big impact on me.
Yeah. And are you still friends with some of your former travel, yeah, softball players?
I am. I'm friends with my travel teammates, but I can't even hardly tell you a few names that was on my high school team.
Yeah.
I just, you know, like I tried to erase those years. And I still talk to some of my travel teammates almost regularly.
What kind of do you have any like team bonding activities that you remember that you did as a team that really stand out?
Yeah, so like before every tournament, we would have like a team bonding, whether it was like a game night in the lobby of the hotel or like everybody's gonna go watch a movie together and or we used to do these like gate questions to where it was like, okay, what's Denham's favorite color? And then like someone would have to answer just so like kind of like a pop quiz of like who knows who really well. And then so he would just always kept things like so like personable and then you start to realize that you know a lot more about these people than what you actually even realize.
Yeah, and that's why you still remember them, you know,
Mhm.
those types of things.
Absolutely.
And I do agree 100%. You know, you need to invest in each other off the field. Just makes everything, you know, anytime that we do that with our teams, it just really helps the teams gel, and it's
Yeah.
always a positive experience. So you kind of talked about, you know, your travel softball experience and how it helped you, you know, and affected you in a positive way to grow as a player and a person. How did it prepare you for college softball?
I think travel softball is crazy. The fact that like I used to play 8 games in a weekend and now I play 3 games in a weekend and I'm like dying. I'm like, wow, I'm really tired. And so I think like in that aspect of like the workload is so similar to like how it is in college. It's pretty interesting. Like some things are very similar to high school as well. But I would say like with my high school, I mean, with my travel ball experience, Coach Kendrea ran our team very similar to how Coach McCorkle ran our travel ball. And so like things aligned and like started to click for me. And I think that that's when my career started to take off is because it was all stuff that I had already heard before. And so it wasn't anything like really new. Like I knew what was expected of me at all times. There was no question as to like what he needed out of me. It was always very straightforward and it might not have been easy to hear, but at least I knew like what he wanted from me and where I fell short or, you know, exceeded at. And so travel ball in that aspect of like coaching styles really prepared me for the next level.
I think I told you last year when you were on the Chalk Talks that I went to the national convention and I ran into Mike. I
Uh-huh.
specifically went to San Antonio to hear him speak because I never was able to catch him at the right conference, and he didn't disappoint. You know, he talked about a lot of things. He talked about life as well as softball and some of the things that he might have done differently. We both caught an elevator on the way up, after the convention, and it just by coincidence. And I told him that you were going to come on. He said to say hi to you, and he had a lot of great memories from having you play with him.
Oh
So,
yeah. I mean, that man, it just speaks volumes. I don't know if anybody saw, but the University of Arizona athletic director actually resigned like 2 days ago, and they called Coach Candrea to
mhm.
step in. So it's just like speaks volumes as to like the impact that made on Arizona. And so it's just super cool that like I got to play for him, and that's one of the biggest highlights. And so he definitely shaped my career along with thousands of other people's careers.
And I loved hearing him talk about his players because you can tell it was family and that he loved his players and how he would reach out to players on their birthdays still and just say happy birthday to
Yeah.
them after all of these years. And
So
so
his first year of coaching, he started a planner and he wrote every single player's birthday in it. And he kept going for the 30, I don't know, 7 or 8 years that he coached. And so it was just a running planner of every single player that he had ever coached's birthday. So he wakes up every morning, sends out texts to those people, and then starts his day. And like he has never missed a holiday for me, a birthday, Christmas, nothing. So it's pretty impressive.
yeah, it's really cool. How about what were your experiences? So you played high school ball and travel, and where do you think that you were noticed the most or were recognized? Was it in travel ball that,
Mhm.
and
Travel
then
balls for sure.
and did you like attend camps or clinics that you were like kind of targeting that you were interested in these schools, or was it, well, I'm just going to go to McNeese State because everybody else went?
So I went to a couple of camps, and it actually turned out that those people that I went to camps didn't ever even like recruit me. So like that was like the crazy part, is that like we spent all this time and money to go to this camp, and I got like MVP of the camp, and then they wouldn't even look at me. And so I actually had one school that I said I would not ever go to, and it was McNeese, because I felt like my whole life I always got like, oh, she's gonna go to McNeese because her sisters went there and like she has a full ride and all this and that. And I was like, no, like I want to do my own thing because like I worked hard and I earned it, rather than I wanted to follow in my sister's footsteps of playing college softball, but not at McNeese.
Yeah, I can understand that. You blaze your own trail. Um,
Mhm.
so what was so what camps did you kind of target? What schools were you interested in?
I went to LSU camp. I won like the MVP of the entire camp, and she never came out and watched me, not once. And I was like, oh my God, I was devastated. I thought it was the end of the world because I had my heart set on that. And then I went to a Baylor camp, and he told me that he didn't know if I had much upside. And like now, like on the coaching side of it, I'm like 6'1", lanky,
Yeah.
like upside, you know. But anyways, and so I did not get offered by them. And I think those were really the only two camps that I went to, just because the recruiting process was so different. Now, while I coached, so I went back and coached at McNeese, and which was an awesome experience, loved it. And so now I can honestly say that that is where like I would find players at, is like I would know who was coming to the camps. And then I just kind of went into a camp open minded and tried to like connect with each girl, kind of get their vibe and their energy, and then obviously their skill set as well. But camps are super important nowadays, because it's just so hard for a coach to like stumble across a game, you know, of like hopefully when you're doing well. And so it's just like going out to those camps and putting yourself out there, I think is the quickest way to be seen by them, because they know everybody that's going to be at their camps, you know. And also emailing, not like a plain email. It doesn't have to be super formal, because as a coach, you get thousands or hundreds of emails, you know. And so I always say, like, put something fun, like show your humor a little bit, show that you're funny or whatever, you know, crack a joke in an email, because that sticks out to a coach rather than like a very formal addressed email. Now, still make it professional, but you can kind of show like who you may be and who you are. And then I always appreciated when kids would attach videos because I was like, oh, she has really good mechanics. I'm going to go out and watch one of her games, along with like attached schedules too. I think that's really helpful on the coaching side.
Yeah, those are great tips. So then how did you end up with the Raging Cajuns?
So I was actually committed to University of Texas at Arlington. And I was like having a little bit of second guess. I went to a camp and I was like, man, I don't know. I don't know if this is the right fit anymore. And my mom was like, hey, if you're already questioning it now, then like we need to open this up, because I believe it was my senior year. And so she's like, I mean, let's open it up and see what's going to happen. And so then Mike Lateef was the coach at UL, and he didn't believe in early recruiting. And so, which was amazing for me. So he happened to have money for me when I decommitted. He heard that I decommitted. So I went to one of their camps because he was like, hey, I want to see you pitch. So I went out there, and that's kind of how it happened. And I will honestly say to this day that going to UL was like the best decision of my life. I enjoyed my time at Arizona and I have no regrets of going there. But starting my career off at UL allowed me to grow in a smaller conference with highly competitive people. And that I think set me up for success of going to Arizona where there was so much talent. I think I would have been a little bit of like intimidated, a little shocked if I would have went straight to Arizona. So I always say that it's pretty crazy how it worked out and how great it was, because in the moment I thought it was terrible. Like my coaching staff that I loved dearly, all of a sudden we wake up and we see on the news that they're fired. And it was like, whoa, what? Season's in 3 months, And so it was so hard to see like the blessings in disguise there. And so now looking back at it, I'm like, wow, UL was absolutely amazing.
Yeah, it's funny how, I hear that from a number of our guests, just how it all works out in the end. So
It really is like trusting the process of like not stressing, just let it come to you and then react. Because I think that in my recruiting process, that's what I did really well is I never had really like a dream school. I thought every opportunity was an amazing opportunity. And so then I never got like too high or low. And it kind of allowed me to be like really thankful and grateful for every school that came along the way. And so I have two nieces that are going through the recruiting process right now. And they're like, ooh, I want to go Power Five. And I'm like, no, we need to be very thankful for whatever opportunity you get to play at the next level, because it's all hard. Like none of it's easy, and you worked really hard, but I mean, this is just the beginning of working hard.
yeah, no, you know it. You've been there and you've gone through it. But that's a really good point. Getting started there, and it is cool that you were able to kind of set yourself up for success by going there, and you kind of got comfortable and in the conference, and figured your thing out, and then it really worked out well going to the University of Arizona after that.
Yes, sir.
What things do you think the transition from high school to college? What was that like for you? Was it easy, or was it difficult? Was it more of the time management for the school side of it? What was
It
your
was definitely time management. Like, I mean, I was spoiled growing up to where my mom made me breakfast and packed my lunch every morning and had dinner ready when I got home from practice. And it was like, wow, like I'm 4 hours away from home. I have to plan my meals or I won't have time to eat. I got to go to class and be on time. And making sure that that you have every meeting and practice and weight session logged so you don't accidentally miss something. And so now I'm like have 5 calendars on every device that I have because college just kind of taught me that time management aspect of like also having to balance like personal life. Like you still have to be a human and have a social life, on top of, school and softball. And so I would say that was the hardest adjustment, but that's pretty much across the board. Everybody has to kind of figure out like, okay, I have the decision of going to class or I could sleep, and you risk your coach finding out and getting in trouble, or you take care of your business to make sure you're passing and that you can play. And so it's like having that option, a lot of people struggle with. And so, I mean, there's definitely days where I was like, oh man, I do not want to go to class. But in the back of my mind, I was like, ooh, if they do random class checks today, that would be terrible, And so you kind of have to make those choices and have your priorities pretty straight, or you're going to fall into some trouble quick.
Yeah, it's part of growing up. It sounds like a lot of responsibility. And I know our girls, especially like 18U, we've got a number of them that are committed and they're trying to figure things out, trying to understand what that transition is going to be like. So it's great to hear, from people like you and how you went through it and handled it.
Yes.
So you got through college here and you went to 2 World Series back to back, and then you went on to Team USA and became a gold medalist. What was that experience like?
So kind of give you a rundown of like how I went to Japan, why I went to Japan, USA, and all of that. Okay. So
Yep.
basically, I never knew that anybody was going and playing in Japan. Why? Because I never really knew the opportunity was there, until once I got into pro ball and I hear people are going to Japan and I'm like, oh, that's a pretty cool, but like, not for me. Like I didn't even know that I wanted to play professionally. I never even put my name in the draft. Actually, Coach Candrea and Coach Moet put my name in for me. Because I was scared of rejection. There was only 12 draft picks and I was like, no, like I really would like to end my career on a high, not being rejected of not playing at the next level. And so they were like, nah, you're putting your name in. And so Coach T was like, you don't even have to watch the draft. I'll call you when your name is announced. And I'm like, oh my gosh. So I go to Athletes Unlimited. I get to go to USA and I did terrible at USA. I think I pitched against like Cuba or something. I can't even remember. And I gave up like 6 runs in like 1 inning. Like, who gives up 6 runs to Cuba in 1 inning? Like, come on, Alyssa. And so I was like, okay, I'm so far along in my career where I feel like I'm starting to like actually figure out like who I am as a pitcher. I'm starting to have a lot of success. So if I want to be on Team USA for long term, I need international experience, because clearly the international game is very, very different than in the States. Because I was on like a high. I just placed second at AU. I was like, oh, Cuba, oh, I got you, And then I go and I give up 6 runs and I'm like, whoa, and I don't go on the field again. I think I pitched like 2 innings after that and it was fine, but it was just very limited after that, And so that's why I was like, you know what? I need to go to Japan, because if USA is something that I want to do, then I need to learn how other countries play the game. And what better way than Japan, who's beat USA? Like my philosophy was like, if I can figure out how to be successful out there, then I can beat them come hopefully the Olympics, And so that's kind of why I went out there. It was an amazing experience. It kind of, I mean, I'm from Alvin, Texas, which really nobody knows of. And so it was like a big culture shock to me. I mean, I had a translator everywhere I went. I learned the train system, and then like you can't even communicate with the umpires. And so like the strike zone was like non-existent, and so like I'm trying to figure out like where the strike zone's at, and you can't even communicate to ask. And so it was just like the whole language barrier of even trying to talk to my coach. I communicate with my coaches a lot. Like I feed off of a lot of feedback, whether it's positive or negative, and not getting that was tough. And so I was lucky to have Gwen Savekis out there with me, who's also my USA and Athletes Unlimited catcher. So she was like, we were each other's lifeline. Like, I mean, we both had our own apartments, but we did every single thing together. We cried together, we laughed together. So it was just so cool. And I'm super grateful for the opportunity, but I could not go back again, just because it was 7 months out there. And it was a lot, and it was super hard. And so now that I have a better understanding of, how they play internationally, I feel like I'm way more prepared now for like my next USA event.
Yeah, I was going to ask you how long it was. That's quite a long
It
time,
was 7
7 months.
months. So I left, yeah, I left in
Hmm.
February. I came back and played in AU. And then the day after AU finished, hopped on a plane and flew right back for 2 more months. And so that second half was hard because I was like, wait, what? I have to leave my family again, you know?
Yeah.
So that was tough.
And I know we were messaging a little bit at that time, setting things up. And I know that the time change, it made it really difficult
It's
for you.
14 hours ahead over there. So it was really hard, you know, like having to schedule a call with my mom and dad, you know, and mom and dad have watched every single game of my career. Even still to this point, like they're setting alarms at 3 a.m. for my game so that they can get on and watch. And so it was just like, it was hard on everybody. Everyone was always stressed for me because they knew like I was ready to come home. And it was just like, I mean, practice, I don't know if many people know, but like Japan is crazy. Okay. The schedule. We had practice days from anywhere between 8 to 10 hour practice days
Wow.
every single day with one off day a week. And so it was just a lot. And I also, for my team, I started 18 out of 18 games straight. So, like having to like push through physically, it was so difficult, especially like not that I'm old, but I'm like, wow, like I feel like I would be a lot better at this if I did it straight out of college rather than 3 years out of college. And so I got back into like the best shape of my life out there. So I always say that that was a positive because now I have like a new appreciation for those girls out there playing. Like they don't get paid. Americans get paid really well to go out there, but your teammates, they don't get paid. And so they're doing it strictly for the love of softball. And so it's
Mhm.
like, how can I sit here and complain about a 10-hour practice day when I'm getting a nice paycheck and like she's not, you know? And so it gave like a really big, like eye opening moment. And so it kind of gave me like a new love for the game of that, like, I felt so like entitled of like, no, I don't want to practice. And then like they've done this. She's 35 and she's never gotten a paycheck from it, you know, which is pretty crazy.
And are these people like they have regular jobs and then they're
Yeah,
fitting this in
so
around their schedule?
yeah, they have a job also. So like my team was the Toda Medics, and so that's the medical group in Japan. And so
Mm.
they were a lot of them were like receptionists for the medical group. So when you get on a team in Japan, you have a job for lifetime in that company, which is really cool. So after you retire from softball, you go straight to that company and you work. But like say we had an off day on Mondays, they were having to go in the office and work an 8 hour shift. And so it was crazy. It was not an off day for them. It was for me and Gwen, you know, but like they were not.
How's the love of the game there in their culture? Is it
Very
more popular?
passionate
Yeah.
because like from a player standpoint, they've invested their entire life literally. Like a lot of them are very, very poor. They've invested every single thing that they can into it. And so when you lose a game, like everybody's crying. And I'm like, oh my God, like we do not cry at home. Like if we lose a game, like that is no, no, you know? And so you have like grown women that are 40 years old crying because they lost a game, but really like they've sacrificed everything in their life to play this game. And so it was really eye opening. But then the amount of fans that were at games was amazing. Japan loves diamond sports. Baseball and softball are like the most popular sports in Japan. We would have probably 3,000 2 to 3,000 people at games, and they have these big old speakers and like they have cheerleaders and all kinds of stuff. It was crazy. It's so hectic. It's like a circus, and it was like they're screaming at me and I don't know what they're saying. And so it was like so distracting because I'm trying to figure out like I learned a little bit of Japanese, and so I'm trying to like communicate, and
Yeah,
it was so fun.
it sounds like a lot of fun. Sounds like a really cool experience. Um, and then just talking a little bit more about your professional experience. How many seasons have you played with Athletes Unlimited now? Is it three?
I've played three, and I just signed a 2-year contract. So I'll play 24 and 25 for sure, which I plan on playing. I always say like I'm training for the Olympics in 28. I don't know if it'll happen, but I'm going to be ready if the opportunity is there. So I plan on playing until 2028.
Awesome. Yeah, it'd be awesome to watch you play in the Olympics. That'd be really cool. I know a lot of us here, we streamed the games from Guatemala to watch
Okay.
when yeah, Team USA was there. And Morgan Zirkle she had been
Yep.
on for the Chalk Talks, and Rachel Garcia and others. So it's really cool to get to watch the players that you get to talk to play. So
It is. It's so cool.
so you have your professional experience right now, and now I know that you're working at BSN. So you're out in the industry. So are you like training as well right now and working at BSN?
Yes. So my schedules right now they're pretty rough. It's pretty brutal. So I'm working out with my personal trainer at 6 a.m. It's about an hour 15 workout, come back, get ready for work. And then luckily I work remote. And so I work from 8 to 5, and then I give lessons from 5 to 9. And so then I'm home at like 9:30, 10 o'clock, and it's all over again. And so it's like, it's kind of like Groundhog Day right now. It's like
Yeah.
the same thing every day, but it's a lot of fun. Keeps me busy.
Yeah. So what are your plans after softball in the future? I know that you had a degree. Is it some form of degree in education?
So I have leadership and literacy degree. It's basically part of the special education. So I always thought I wanted to be a teacher. And now that I have my BSN job, I like to say it's my first big girl job. And so I don't plan on making a change. I've absolutely loved it because I love coaching, but right now playing and coaching is too much softball. But BSN allows me to be like still relevant in softball, still making those connections and making an impact in the game in a different way because I'm able to give feedback of like, oh, okay, like my personal experience with Nike uniforms is this, this, and this, or like I wore Mizuno cleats. And so I'm able to help kind of coaches and players figure out like what is best for them and like what they may be most comfortable in. That's kind of my job is so I'm a national account manager. So I oversee all softball like club accounts and I just like try to make connections and make sure I'm basically the good person of like making sure everybody's happy and their orders get there on time and nobody gets mad.
It's I know it's a lot more challenging than that. Keep everybody happy. Great. So I think yeah, we're doing pretty good on time here. How about we go ahead and open it up for questions? We've got quite a few people still on, a lot of young kids. All right, and again, you ask a question, let somebody else ask a question after. So don't keep asking questions, but let's just take our turns, and then if it comes back to you, then that's great. So go ahead, guys.
What are your siblings' names?
So I have three older sisters. My oldest one is Stephanie, and then it goes Jessica, Tiffany, and then me. So I'm the baby.
Which ones were pitchers?
Jessica and Tiffany. So my oldest sister Stephanie was a shortstop, and then pitcher, pitcher, pitcher.
Okay. We have another question. Come on, guys. Another question from the group.
What do you tell yourself when you're bad?
When I'm batting,
Yes.
okay, so I am a pitcher only. So that means I do not hit, but I can relate into the fact of like what I tell myself before every pitch. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay. So my biggest keyword, so I like to talk about keywords of like we're going to fill our brain with positive thoughts before we are ready to like I always say like go to battle every pitch, right? And I always tell myself to compete because I'm going to try my best. And then I always tell myself to win this pitch because Coach Kendra used to always tell us the person that won the most pitches in the game is the person that wins typically. So I always tried to, you know, win every pitch and try my best.
Do you think that being a pitcher that played multiple positions helped you with the perspective of the game more so than pitchers who have just pitched or players that have just played positional like spots?
Absolutely. Yeah. I feel like I gained a better, like, well-rounded understanding of what everybody should be doing like before the pitch, during the pitch, and after the pitch. And so it's really helped me, especially in AU, of like making sure that everybody's on the same page, because in Athletes Unlimited, we only get to practice 2 to 3 times together and then it's time to play. And then next week, the whole team is different. And so me understanding what everybody's supposed to be doing has made me a better leader and a better captain of being able to like communicate and help my teammates make sure that they're doing the right thing also.
I think that's pretty wild that you guys only get like 1 or 2 practices together and then they just throw you out there. And so,
And like the practices are like an hour and a half long because there's only one field and 4 teams have to practice. So it's pretty wild.
how often did you practice for like Team USA when you guys all got together and went down to Guatemala?
We had 2 days before the tournament to practice together.
Yeah.
Yeah. Luckily, though, it was mostly AU girls. And so we had just played together all season. But yeah, only 2 days before season.
It's gonna be really challenging for a coach.
Yes.
I have a question about your Japan experience. So you said you had like 8 to 10 hour practice days. Was that like you working with the team or was it just different individual practice slots? Because you're talking about how with USA and Guatemala, it was a 2-day practice, I guess. So I just have a question.
Yeah, so our 8 to 10 hour practice days were as a team. So we, like the Americans, did every single thing that the Japan players did. That's not always the case, but it was on our team. And so we would typically practice for 8 hours at a field together, doing literally everything: offense, defense, situational stuff, base running. And then as a PO, like I spent a lot of time shagging. And so after that, we would usually have meetings for like an hour, and then we would have weights together for an hour.
I think that's a great idea. We should start implementing 8-hour travel practices, right, Alyssa? She's one of my
Goodness
players.
gracious.
That would be crazy.
I think if that was the case when I was younger, I definitely wouldn't have played softball.
Yeah, I can imagine. You have another question with the group?
Who's the best pitcher in your family?
I don't know if my sister's on here. I think she said she was going to get on here. So these might be fighting words that you're asking. No, I think that we were all really good in different aspects. I just think there were more opportunities for me than what there was when they played. There wasn't even really pro softball when they played. They're a lot older than me. And so I just think that the opportunities are a lot bigger for me.
What's the age difference between you guys?
So Jessica is, oh man, I think she's 40. And then Tiffany's like 34. And Stephanie's like 42, I think, or 43.
Okay.
And then I'm 25. So
you are the baby.
by a lot.
By a lot, yeah.
So you're saying you're the best pitcher?
Who wants to get you on
As of right now, we're gonna talk about like right now. Yes, I'm better than them. But
No.
back when they played, I don't know, because I never even got to see them play. I was so small. I was such a baby. I was running wild at the field. I don't even know. Trust me, that is like a topic of discussion at every family event of who's the best athlete, because I have 3 brother-in-laws. 2 played football in college and 1 played golf in college, and then us 4 that all played softball. So it gets pretty competitive around our house.
they like living like through you, like going to like say AU games and watching
Yes,
the
so
team and
I was a captain, I think week 5 this past year. And my sisters were like, oh my God, she's gonna win it this year. Like they all hopped on a plane and came out and surprised me in Chicago. And it was the best. It was so much fun because it was just my sisters, no offense to my brother-in-laws and my nieces and nephews, but it was just so much fun having like my sisters there and like getting to spend that much time, because it was also like I left to go back to Japan right after. So it was so nice having them there. And then my parents, they come all the time in Chicago. They're there like almost every week. And so it's just so much fun to like share that with them.
yeah, pretty cool family experience. We have another question from the group.
You talked about getting like picked on and bullied in like school. Did that change any way you felt about going to practice or like hanging around those people?
Yeah. I didn't want to go to practice and I didn't want to go to school and I did not want to hang out with them. And I never understood why my mom made me. My mom was like, nope, you're going to be the bigger person. You're beautiful and you're strong and you're amazing, And so you're going to be the bigger person and you're going to put a smile on your face and you're going to go and you're going to be a part. And I never understood why. And now looking back at it, it's like, okay, if I would have isolated myself and not done it, who knows what would have happened? Like I probably would have struggled with some mental health issues. And given that my mom continued to make me put myself out there, she was like, because eventually you're going to find friends that accept you for like who you are and they're going to love you and they're going to care about you. And sure enough, like senior year, junior year, I started making like a small group of friends of like 2 to 3 other girls those are the ones I still talk to and I still hang out with all the time. And so it was just, I'm so thankful that my mom continued to like push me to hang out and go to the events. And like, you're not staying home, you're not sitting with me at the table, you're going to go sit with your teammates and you're going to keep trying, because eventually they're going to realize. And so my mom always said is like, let them be the bad guy and you always be the good guy. And like, you always have a smile on your face and you be a good person because that's what people remember.
It's so true. It's great parenting. Cool.
She had some practice before me, so
Yeah, a few before you. Yeah, it's not an easy thing, and we talk about mental health awareness and bring in speakers, and we talk to our coaches to let you know that if any of my coaches said, you're never going to play at the highest level to one of our players, they wouldn't be a part of our organization. We try to find coaches that want to do it for the right reasons and support the girls. And I hope all the girls, hear your story and they realize that just because you have some obstacles in life, like bullies, or say you have a coach that you're not having a good experience with, don't change, your path. Try to overcome those challenges and don't quit. So, really important.
yes. And my mom always told me that people are going to remember how good of a softball player you are for a very short amount of time. But people are always going to remember like what kind of person and like what kind of impact that you had on them. And so that was like always the saying is that like you could do terrible, give up 15 home runs, but if you were a good person, 10 years down the road, people are typically going to remember how good of a person you were rather than how bad of an outing that you may have had. And so that was something that I always try to like value, even like after AU, if I do terrible, the last thing I want to do is go sign autographs, but it's like, no. Like that used to be me. And like, if I have the ability to impact a kid, it doesn't matter how I did because they think I did amazing. Like I'll never forget one time after AU, I didn't even pitch that game. And this little girl goes, Alyssa, you did so amazing. And I was like, oh, thank you. Like I didn't play, but it's like, it puts in perspective of like, people don't care, they care about like how you can interact with them and like make them feel special and like smile and be friendly. And so that's what I always try to do, no matter if I play, don't play, do good or don't do good, is because people are always going to remember that I, did things the right way and that I was nice to people.
So talking about that and on that topic, so how do you handle failure?
I've gotten better at it. It's still a work in progress. Handling failure as a perfectionist, which most of us are in our sport, that's why we play. It's never easy to not do well, especially like what I found. So I talked to my McNeese pitchers and like I was like, hey, let's dive into like why we get so upset when we don't do well, because I've never really thought about like why. And what we came up with is that we spend basically every moment of our eyes are open is almost thinking about softball, right? Like in some aspect of like, okay, I have practice and today we're working on base running, like something is always going through our mind about softball. And so when we invest all of that time and energy into softball and we don't do well, it feels like the world is ending, right? Because we have prepared and thought about that moment for, days, months before, and so we kind of talked about it is that like, let's treat it as a great opportunity to get better from. And so I always say that I'm not going to make the same mistake twice. Is like, okay, I'm going to hang a drop ball, but you're not going to get that pitch again. Like you're lucky you caught that pitch and you hit it, right? And so that's kind of how I figured out how to handle failure a little bit better. I'm still not great at it. After games, I need like probably 2 hours before I talk to anybody. So I turn my phone off. I don't want to talk to anybody. And then after that, I'm like, all right, turn the page. I got another game tomorrow. So I need to start filling my brain with positive thoughts, because if not, you're going to fall down like basically a hole, and it's so hard to get out of it. And so I try to have a short-term memory of like, I can be mad, I can be angry, but let's find something to find that I can get better at that will not happen again. So like, I'll never forget, worst moment of my college career was probably my senior day, when my entire family, like 25 people, flew out to Arizona against UCLA, and I gave up 4 home runs in 2 innings. And we got run rolled on my senior day. Not only mine, 6 other girls too. And Coach Kendra was like, well, that's the first time we've gotten run rolled in 20 years. And I'm like, wow, that just like adds on to it, like that's amazing. And so like, I was upset, like my whole family's there, the adrenaline and everything. And so I feel like you have a choice as a player to either you can feel bad about it and you can feel bad for yourself when nobody else feels bad for you. So I always say that, like, no one feels bad for you. So you feel bad for yourself for a second, and then you got to get over it. And then the next day I turned around and I threw a 1-hitter against the same lineup, same team, same everything. And so it's just like, it can happen that fast. Like you can have such a bad day, but you can have a good day just as fast. And so it's like, if you start carrying one outing into another, then you're going to find that you have 50 bad days, and then you're going to have like 5 good ones and then 50 more bad ones. And so I think being able to stay off that emotional roller coaster and just try to stay here as much as possible rather than writing this is where you're going to have a lot of success.
Totally agree with you. And I think it's Wichita State's coach says over and over again, have the memory of a goldfish, like a 3-second memory, and then forget it. When we tell our girls, flush it. You have a bad inning, you make a mistake. Everybody makes mistakes. Everybody has a bad day, flush it and go on to the next thing. Otherwise, you're going to carry that with you to the next play, to the next game, to the next tournament. So totally agree.
Yeah, and it's not, you're not the first one to go through it, nor the last one. And so it's also not going to be the last time that you make an error. And so that was the thing too, when I was coaching, is that like, I didn't have a ton of coaching experience, but I knew what it felt like to be a pitcher. And so when I kind of got thrown into the coaching role, I was like, all right, I don't know how to be like a pitching coach. I know how to pitch and I know how to win. So let's figure it out together, because at the time I was 24 and my players were 23. And so it was like, we were learning together, which was so much fun. And so it was like, okay, you think it's the end of the world because you gave up a home run. Let's pull up all the rest of us giving up a home run also, because I just gave up one like a week ago, and so it's like, there's going to be 20 more given up. And so just realizing that it happens to literally every single player that plays the game at any level kind of puts in perspective of like, okay, it's going to happen. It doesn't mean that it's okay. Let's figure out what we did wrong. Let's try our best to not let it happen again. And let's move forward together.
So would you say that you try to, you trust the process, the work ethic that you had to get you there, and you're not thinking in the back of your mind, well, I got to change this, I got to change this, I got to do, just trust the process and it'll end up working itself out. Don't doubt your abilities.
Yeah, everybody, a common question that I usually get is like, how do you have confidence? Like, where do you get confidence from? And I always say that confidence comes from your training. Like, when you're putting in the time that needs to be put in, you're confident that you're prepared, ready to compete. Now, when you may not be putting in the time, that's when you start second guessing yourself in game because you may not feel comfortable, or you're like, oh my God, I haven't hit in a week, or I haven't hit in 2 weeks, or I didn't pitch when I was supposed to pitch. And so it was like, when you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, you're working hard and you're taking like intentional reps. It doesn't have to be for an hour. That's what I always tell a pitcher. They're like, how many times should I pitch a week? First off, nobody really has time nowadays to pitch every single day for an hour. Now, should we be touching a ball every day to every other day? Absolutely. Whether that's snaps or dry pitches, watching yourself in a mirror so that you know what you're doing and you're being aware of what you're doing because you can see yourself. And so it's just like, we should be doing something, because then come game time, in the back of your head that you've put the work in. So that's where that confidence comes out.
Yeah. Great. Well, Alyssa, we are getting late, and I don't want to keep holding you up, too late here. But I had one more question for you. What do you think about our chalk talks, about doing this type of thing?
I think it's amazing. And that's why I really enjoy being a part of it. Is because this wasn't ever a thing when I played. And so it was always like my mom and dad or my coach or my sisters telling me like all of this stuff. But sometimes when you hear it from somebody else, especially people from all different perspectives, whether it's a coach or a player or somebody that played in college or Sierra Romero, and it's like, when you can hear the same thing that you're saying every day to the kids, you're like, oh, okay, he knows what he's talking about then. Like, now it means a lot more. And it's not that like a kid may not trust you, but sometimes it gets old hearing it from the same people, And so I think that having this and being able to connect the youth with us and is amazing. I think that's something great about our sport, is that like the professionals are willing to connect with the youth. That's not a thing in baseball. Like, you're not ever going to get one of the best baseball players in the world to come on here and talk, And so I think that's why like us playing professional is like, we want to give back to the youth in any opportunity that we can, because we hope that you guys, take the resources and from our experiences so that you can reach whatever level that it may be that they want to reach. And so I think it's just so cool having the opportunity, and that's why I really love being a part of it, is because I feel like you're the only person that is doing it. I've never been asked to do it by anybody else. And so I just think it's such a great opportunity and really awesome experience for the girls and for me too, because I love sharing my stuff. And I really like, the best part about my job of playing softball is that I get to inspire the younger girls, just like Kat Osterman inspired me, and so it's giving them someone to look up to, and I hope that everyone's given a good example to follow.
Yeah, well, we really appreciate your generosity and making the time. You communicate really well. Not everybody has time, and you've always made time to communicate with us, and I really appreciate it. And I am totally a fan, so love watching you play, and hopefully, wishing you the best of luck for this upcoming
Thank
season.
you.
But yeah, thank you for coming on.
No problem. And if anyone ever needs anything, let me know. I appreciate it.
Okay, all right,
Thank
Alyssa.
you.
Yep.
Bye-bye.
Have a good night.
You too.
Thank you, Alyssa.
You're welcome. Bye, y'all.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Alyssa. And
Bye.
tell,
Thank you. Bye.